The rescue. Sarah Chen squinted at the nav display, double-checking her coordinates. The cargo hold of her ship, the Stardust Express, was packed to the brim with industrial polymers bound for New Titan. It was a routine haul, the kind she'd done 100 times before. But something felt off. "Hey, HFY," she called out to her ship's AI. "You picking up anything weird on the long-range sensors?" The AI's melodic voice filled the cramped cockpit. "Negative, Sarah. All systems nominal. However, there is an anomalous energy signature at bearing 047, range 500,000 kilometers." Sarah's brow furrowed. They were well off the beaten path of normal trade routes. "Can you identify the source?" "Insufficient data. The signature is weak and intermittent." Curiosity got the better of her. It wasn't like Sarah to deviate from a planned route, but something in her gut told her this was important. "Plot an intercept course, ARIA. Let's check it out." As the Stardust Express altered its trajectory, Sarah couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The vast emptiness of space seemed to press in around her small ship, a constant reminder of how alone she truly was out here. After 20 minutes of silent cruise, a dark shape began to resolve against the star-speckled backdrop. ARIA. Magnify and enhance. The main view screen flickered, revealing a battered and scared vessel of unfamiliar design. Its hull was pockmarked with impact craters, and a large gash had nearly severed one of its wing-like protrusions. "Holy shit," Sarah breathed. "ARIA. Are you seeing this? Any life signs?" Scans indicate minimal power signatures. No discernible life signs detected. However, the ship's hull composition is interfering with detailed scans. Sarah chewed her lip, weighing her options. Salvage laws were clear. A derelict ship was fair game. But something about this felt wrong. This wasn't some ancient wreck. The damage looked fresh. ARIA. Prep the airlock. I'm going aboard. "Sarah, I must advise against this course of action. The structural integrity of the alien vessel is questionable, and we have no data on potential biohazards." "Noted," Sarah replied, already suiting up. "Keep the engines hot. If anything goes sideways, I want a quick exit." The space between the two ships was a dizzying void that Sarah traversed via a thin tether. Her magnetic boots clanged softly as she landed on the alien hull. Up close, the damage was even more severe. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. Sarah found an airlock, and after some trial and error, managed to activate the emergency override. The inner door creaked open, revealing a dim, smoky interior. Emergency lights pulsed weakly, casting eerie shadows. "ARIA, you reading me?" Sarah's voice crackled over the comm. "Affirmative. Signal strength at 87%. Please exercise caution." "Sarah." She moved carefully through the ship, her helmet lights illuminating the scene of destruction. Panels hung loose from walls, and strange viscous fluids pooled on the floor. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burnt circuitry. As Sarah rounded a corner, she froze. A body lay crumpled against a bulkhead, clearly not human. Its gray, chitinous skin was cracked and oozing a phosphorescent blue liquid. Sarah approached cautiously, her suit's sensors confirming what her eyes already told her. The alien was dead. "ARIA, are you getting this?" "Affirmative. Xenobiological data is being recorded and analyzed." Sarah continued deeper into the ship, her heart pounding. She'd never encountered a new alien species before, let alone one under these circumstances. What had happened here? The corridor opened into what appeared to be the ship's bridge. More alien bodies were strewn about, their positions suggesting a desperate last stand. Sarah's light played across shattered control panels and flickering holographic displays. A soft, rhythmic beeping drew her attention to a recessed alcove. Sarah approached cautiously, her hand instinctively moving to the pistol at her hip. The alcove contained a cylindrical pod, its surface covered in pulsing bioluminescent patterns. A cracked display panel showed rapidly declining life support readings. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she peered through a small viewport in the pod. Inside, curled in a fetal position, was a small alien figure. It looked like a juvenile version of the bodies she'd seen, but this one was alive. "RIA, I've got a survivor. Prep the med bay immediately." Sarah worked feverishly to disconnect the pod from the ship's systems. It was heavier than she expected, and maneuvering it through the wrecked corridors was a grueling task. By the time she reached the airlock, her muscles were screaming in protest. As she began the delicate process of transferring the pod to the Stardust Express, Aria's urgent voice cut through her concentration. "Sarah, multiple vessels approaching at high speed. Energy signatures match known Galactic Council configurations." Sarah's blood ran cold. The Galactic Council was supposed to be a peacekeeping force, but rumors had been swirling for years about their true nature. If they were responsible for this, how long do we have, Aria? At current velocities, intercept in 7 minutes, 13 seconds. Sarah redoubled her efforts, muscles straining as she guided the pod into her ship's airlock. "Prep for emergency departure. Divert all non-essential power to engines and shields." The moment the airlock cycled shut, Sarah was moving. She shed her spacesuit in record time, sprinting for the cockpit. The Stardust Express's engines were already humming to life as she slid into the pilot's seat. "Give me everything she's got, Aria. We need to break contact before they get a positive ID." The ship lurched as Sarah punched the throttle, inertial dampeners struggling to compensate. Stars blurred into lines as they accelerated away from the derelict. "Incoming transmission," Aria announced. "Galactic Council frequency." "Ignore it," Sarah growled, hands dancing over the controls. "Plot a course through the Kepler debris field. It'll mask our ion trail." "Sarah, the Kepler debris field is extremely hazardous. Navigation through. Just do it." The pursuing Council ships were faster, but Sarah had years of experience running blockades and dodging pirates. She pushed her ship to its limits, skimming past jagged chunks of rock and metal with mere meters to spare. Alarms blared as energy weapons fire lanced past the Stardust Express, close enough to make the shields flare brilliant blue. Sarah juked and weaved, her world narrowing to the space between asteroids and the blinking threat indicators on her display. A particularly large asteroid loomed ahead, and Sarah had a crazy idea. "Aria, on my mark. Cut all power. Everything except life support." "Sarah, that course of action is now, Aria." The ship went dark, momentum carrying them straight toward the massive rock. For a heart-stopping moment, Sarah thought she'd miscalculated. Then they slipped into a deep crevice, the asteroid's bulk shielding them from sensors. Long, tense minutes passed. Sarah held her breath, straining to hear any sound of pursuit over the pounding of her own heart. Finally, Aria's voice broke the silence. "Scans indicate pursuit vessels have moved out of range. No detectable signals within a 500,000-kilometer radius." Sarah sagged in her chair, the adrenaline rush leaving her feeling drained and shaky. "Holy shit," she whispered. "We actually made it." As the reality of the situation sank in, Sarah's mind raced. She'd just rescued an unknown alien child, pissed off the Galactic Council, and possibly stumbled onto something huge. There would be no returning to her normal route now. With a deep breath, Sarah began powering up the ship's systems. "Aria, set course for the Erebus research station, and let's see what we can do for our new passenger." As the Stardust Express limped away from the debris field, Sarah knew her life had changed forever. Whatever came next, she was now committed to unraveling this mystery and protecting the vulnerable life that fate had placed in her care. The revelation. The Erebus research station hung in the inky void like a chrome spider web, its spindly arms stretching out from a central hub. It was one of humanity's best-kept secrets, a place where the brightest minds worked on projects too sensitive or too strange for Earth's prying eyes. Sarah Chen guided the battered Stardust Express towards the station with a mixture of relief and apprehension. The past 72 hours had been a blur of hyperjumps and nerve-wracking silences, punctuated by frantic efforts to keep her alien passenger alive. As she approached the docking bay, a gruff voice crackled over the comm. "Unidentified vessel. This is a restricted area. State your business or be fired upon." Sarah took a deep breath. "This is Sarah Chen of the Stardust Express. I'm invoking Protocol Omega-7. Authorization code Bravo Echo 990 Trey." A long pause followed. Sarah's fingers hovered over the controls, ready to make a desperate escape if needed. Finally, the voice returned, noticeably less hostile. "Confirmed, Stardust Express. Proceed to Docking Bay 3. A security team will meet you there." As the ship settled into the docking clamps, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief. But it was short-lived. The real challenges were just beginning. The airlock cycled open to reveal a squad of heavily armed security personnel, led by a stern-faced woman with close-cropped gray hair. "I'm Colonel Yara Blackwood," she announced without preamble. "You'd better have a damn good reason for invoking Omega-7. Chen." Sarah met the colonel's steely gaze. "Ma'am, I've got an injured alien child on board. Unknown species, and I'm pretty sure the Galactic Council is hunting for us." Blackwood's eyebrows shot up, but her composure never wavered. "Med team with me. The rest of you, secure this ship. No one in or out without my express permission." The next few hours passed in a whirlwind of activity. Sarah watched anxiously as the stasis pod was carefully transferred to the station's advanced medical bay. Scientists and doctors swarmed around it, their excited chatter filling the air. Dr. Ilara Voss, the station's lead xenobiologist, approached Sarah with wide eyes. "Ms. Chen, this is incredible. Where did you find this specimen?" Sarah bristled at the word specimen but held her tongue. "Derelict ship, about 3 parsecs from the Horsehead Nebula. The adults were all dead. Looked like they went down fighting." Voss nodded, her expression turning grave. "The child's injuries are extensive. Some appear to be from the crash, but others—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "Others what?" Sarah pressed. "They're precise. Surgical." Voss met Sarah's gaze. Someone was experimenting on this child. A cold knot formed in Sarah's stomach. She'd suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made her feel ill. "Can you help? Him? Her? It?" "We're doing everything we can," Voss assured her. "But their physiology is unlike anything we've encountered. It's going to take time." A commotion from the medical bay drew their attention. The stasis pod was opening, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing rapidly. Sarah rushed forward, her heart in her throat. The alien child's eyes snapped open, all 4 of them. They were a startling amber color, with vertical pupils that contracted in the bright light. A soft, keening sound escaped its mandibles. Without thinking, Sarah reached out, her hand hovering near the child's face. "Hey there," she said softly. "You're safe now. We're going to help you." To everyone's amazement, the alien's keening subsided. It blinked slowly, then extended a multi-jointed limb toward Sarah's hand. The touch was feather-light, almost electric. Dr. Voss was furiously taking notes. "Remarkable. It seems to be responding to your presence, Ms. Chen. The neural activity is off the charts." Before Sarah could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Colonel Blackwood's voice came over the intercom, tense and clipped. "All personnel, battle stations. We have multiple unidentified vessels approaching at high speed." Sarah's blood ran cold. "It's them. The Council. They followed me somehow." Blackwood strode into the medical bay, her face a mask of controlled fury. "Chen, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Now." As Sarah recounted her encounter with the derelict ship and the subsequent chase, the station shuddered. Distant thuds echoed through the hull. the sound of the station's defensive weaponry engaging. "And that's when I decided to come here," Sarah finished. "I didn't know where else to go." Blackwood was silent for a moment, processing. "You did the right thing, Chen. But you've also brought one hell of a shitstorm down on us." She turned to Dr. Voss. "How soon can the alien be moved?" Voss shook her head. "It's too risky. The child is in a delicate state. Moving it cold." She was cut off as the alien child suddenly sat up, its amber eyes wide with what could only be described as terror. It began making a series of rapid clicking sounds, its limbs gesticulating wildly. "What's it doing?" Blackwood demanded. Sarah stepped closer, drawn by an instinct she couldn't explain. I think it's trying to tell us something." As if in response, holographic displays throughout the medical bay flickered to life. Three-dimensional star charts materialized, showing the station's position and the approaching council vessels. Dr. Voss gasped. "It's interfacing with our systems somehow. This level of technological integration is unprecedented." The alien's clicks grew more insistent. The holographic display zoomed in on one of the council ships, highlighting its weapon systems. Then, to everyone's shock, lines of human text began appearing. "Danger. Bad ones come. Hurt. Take. Must. Hide." "It's learned our language," Sarah breathed. "In just a few hours, it's learned to communicate with us." Colonel Blackwood's comm unit crackled. "Ma'am, the unknown vessels are hailing us. They're demanding we turn over any alien life forms we're harboring. They claim it's a dangerous fugitive." The alien child's clicking reached a fever pitch. More text flashed across the displays. "Lie. They lie. I is seep. They hurt many. Please help." Blackwood's jaw clenched. She looked from the terrified alien child to Sarah, then to Dr. Voss. In that moment, Sarah saw the weight of command settling on the colonel's shoulders. "All right," Blackwood said finally. "We're not handing anyone over." She tapped her comm. "All personnel, prepare for emergency evacuation protocols. We're enacting the Chimera contingency." A ripple of shock went through the room. The Chimera contingency was a last resort measure designed to protect the station's most valuable secrets at any cost. "Colonel," Sarah said, her voice tight, "what can I do?" Blackwood fixed her with a steely gaze. "You brought this child to us, Chen. Now you're going to help us get it out of here." She turned to Dr. Voss. "Prepare the specimen for transport. We leave in 10 minutes." As the medical bay erupted into frenzied activity, Sarah found herself looking into the alien child's amber eyes. In them, she saw fear, yes, but also a spark of hope. And in that moment, she knew that whatever came next, her life would never be the same. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. The battle for Erebus, and the fate of their unexpected alien guest, had begun. The resistance, the Chimera contingency, was a sight to behold. As alarms blared throughout Erebus Station, hidden panels slid open, revealing sleek escape pods. Scientists and security personnel moved with practiced efficiency, loading critical data and equipment. Sarah Chen found herself in the heart of the chaos, helping Dr. Voss prepare the alien child for transport. The creature, which they had started calling Zix, was eerily calm, its 4 amber eyes darting between the humans. "How's it looking, Doc?" Sarah asked, securing the last of the medical equipment. Dr. Voss's brow furrowed as she studied her tablet. "Stable for now. But Zix's biology is adapting at an alarming rate. I've never seen anything like it." Before Sarah could respond, Colonel Blackwood's voice crackled over the comm. "Chen, boss, get to Hangar Bay 2 now. We've got a problem." They arrived to find Blackwood standing before a sleek, unmarked ship. It was clearly built for stealth, its hull shimmering with light-bending technology. "Change of plans," Blackwood said grimly. "The council ships have deployed some kind of jamming field. Our escape pods won't make it through." Sarah's eyes widened. "So we're trapped?" Not quite. Blackwood patted the hull of the stealth ship. This is the Phantom. Experimental ghost tech. If anything can slip past that blockade, it's her. Dr. Voss shook her head. Colonel, we can't possibly. We don't have a choice, Doctor. Blackwood cut her off. You, Chen, and our little friend here are the priority now. The Phantom will get you to Earth. I'll stay behind with a skeleton crew to buy you time. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. Colonel, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, Chen. I'm ordering. Blackwood's stern expression softened slightly. Someone has to tell Earth what's really going on out here. It has to be you. A violent tremor shook the station, nearly knocking them off their feet. Blackwood steadied herself against the Phantom's hull. That's our cue. Get on board now. As Sarah helped Dr. Voss and Zix into the ship, a new voice rang out. Wait, take me with you. They turned to see a tall, willowy alien sprinting towards them. Its skin shimmered with iridescent scales, and a crest of feather-like sensory organs adorned its head. Blackwood's hand flew to her sidearm. Identify yourself. The alien raised its hands in a universal gesture of peace. I am Tarlath, Junior Counselor of the Galactic Council, and I have information that could save your lives, and countless others. For a tense moment, nobody moved. Then Zix let out a series of rapid clicks. Text flashed across Sarah's tablet. Truest. Friend. Helped ESTAP. Blackwood's eyes narrowed, but she nodded. Get on board. You've got about 30 seconds to convince me not to space you. As the Phantom's engines hummed to life, Sarlaf spoke quickly. The Council has been corrupted from within. A faction known as the Evolutionaries believes that through controlled genocide and forced evolution, they can create a supreme galactic race. Dr. Voss gasped. The experiments on Zix. Xarlath nodded grimly. Just the beginning. They've been abducting children from developing species across the galaxy. Your human tenacity and ingenuity terrify them. They plan to strike Earth next. Sarah's hands tightened on the ship's controls. Why should we believe you? The alien's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer with emotion. Because I have seen the atrocities firsthand. I helped Zix and others escape. And now, I am hunted too. Another explosion rocked the station. Blackwood's voice came through the calm, tense, and static-filled. Whatever you're going to do it now. We can't hold them off much longer. Sarah took a deep breath and fired up the Phantom's engines. Hang on, everyone. This could get bumpy. The Phantom shot out of the hangar bay like a bullet from a gun. Sarah's pilot instincts took over as she wove through debris and weapons fire. The ship's stealth systems engaged, bending light around them. They're launching fighters. Dr. Voss called out, watching the tactical display. Sarah gritted her teeth. They can't hit what they can't see. Xarlath, make yourself useful. Get on the ECM controls and start scrambling their sensors. The alien counselor moved smoothly to the indicated panel, his long fingers dancing over the alien interface. Impressive technology, he murmured. Your species continues to surprise me. As they approached the edge of the jamming field, alarms blared in the cockpit. They've locked onto us somehow, Sarah growled. Stealth systems are failing. Suddenly, Zix chittered excitedly. Before anyone could react, the alien child had scampered to the ship's main computer interface. Its limbs blurred as it interfaced directly with the system. The Phantom's systems flickered, then came back online with renewed power. The stealth field strengthened, and new evasive maneuvers appeared on Sarah's control panel. What the hell? Sarah breathed, even as she instinctively followed the new flight path. Dr. Voss's eyes were wide as she studied her readings. Zix has merged with the ship somehow. It's optimizing our systems beyond anything we've achieved. With Zix's enhancements, they slipped through the Council blockade like a ghost. As the stars elongated into streaks of light around them, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief. They had escaped, for now. But the real challenge was just beginning. The journey to Earth was tense, filled with hurried explanations and desperate planning. Harlaf shared everything he knew about the evolutionaries and their plans. Dr. Voss worked tirelessly to understand Zix's rapidly evolving biology. And Sarah grappled with the weight of responsibility that had been thrust upon her. As the blue marble of Earth grew larger in their view screen, Sarah felt a mix of hope and dread. They carried with them the key to humanity's survival, but also the harbinger of a war unlike any her species had ever faced. The Phantom breached Earth's atmosphere under the cover of darkness, using every trick in its considerable arsenal to avoid detection. They landed in a remote area, preselected by Colonel Blackwood's final transmission. As the ship's ramp lowered, Sarah took a deep breath of Earth air. It smelled of pine and distant rain, and of home. Dr. Voss placed a hand on her shoulder. "What now, Sarah?" Sarah watched as Zix scampered down the ramp, its alien features alight with curiosity at this new world. Harlaf followed, his own expression a mix of wonder and apprehension. "Now," Sarah said, her voice firm with newfound resolve, "we build a resistance. We find allies, gather resources, and prepare Earth for what's coming." She managed a grim smile. "And then we take the fight back to the stars." As if in response to her words, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the sky. The storm was coming, but this time, humanity would not be caught unaware. The resistance had begun, the uprising. 6 months had passed since the Phantom's dramatic arrival on Earth. In that time, the world had changed in ways few could have imagined. Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display in the heart of Operation Nightfall's underground command center. The room hummed with activity as humans and aliens worked side by side, united in their cause. "Status report," Sarah called out, her voice carrying the weight of command she'd never expected to bear. Dr. Ilara Voss approached, tablet in hand. "The integration of Zix's biotech with our systems is proceeding faster than we anticipated. We're seeing efficiency increases across the board." As if summoned by its name, Zix scuttled into view. In the months since their arrival, the alien child had grown rapidly, both in size and in its incredible abilities. Its chitinous exoskeleton now bore streaks of iridescent blue, and a crest of sensory tendrils adorned its head. "Good work, Zix," Sarah said with a smile. The alien child emitted a series of pleased clicks in response. Harlaf, the defected council member, joined them. "I've made contact with more of my sympathizers within the council. They're ready to move on our signal." Sarah nodded grimly. "They'll need to be. Our latest intel suggests the evolutionaries are accelerating their plans. We might have weeks, not months." The command center's main screen flickered to life, showing an incoming transmission. Colonel Yara Blackwood's face appeared, looking haggard but determined. Against all odds, she and a handful of others had survived the attack on Arivis Station, going deep undercover to gather intelligence. "Chen," Blackwood said without preamble, "we've confirmed the location of the evolutionaries' main research facility. It's a megastructure in the Horsehead Nebula, heavily guarded." Sarah's heart raced. This was the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. "What about the captives?" "The other children?" Blackwood's expression tightened. "Confirmed. Hundreds of them, from dozens of species. But that's not all." She paused, her voice dropping. "They're building something big. Some kind of superweapon designed to forcibly alter the evolution of entire planets." A hush fell over the command center. The implications were staggering. Sarah squared her shoulders. "Then we have no choice. We need to strike now, before they can deploy that weapon." She turned to her team. "Initiate Operation Starburst. This is what we've been preparing for." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Around the world, hidden resistance cells sprang into action. Ships that had been secretly retrofitted with Zix's enhanced technology began launching under the cover of a global satellite blackout. Sarah found herself on the bridge of the Defiant, Earth's first true warship built with a fusion of human and alien technology. Zix was by her side, interfaced directly with the ship's systems. As they broke atmosphere, Sarah allowed herself a moment to marvel at the sight of the assembled fleet. Ships of all sizes and configurations moved in perfect formation, a testament to the unprecedented cooperation between humans and their new alien allies. Zarlath's voice came over the comm. The Council loyalists are in position. They'll create a diversion to draw off the main defensive fleet. Copy that, Sarah replied. All ships, prepare for jump on my mark. The fleet vanished in a burst of light, reappearing at the edge of the Horsehead Nebula. The swirling clouds of gas and dust would have been beautiful if not for the monstrosity that hung at its heart. The evolutionary megastructure was a twisted abomination of metal and biotech, easily the size of a small moon. Swarms of defensive ships already moved to intercept the human-led fleet. All ships, engage at will, Sarah ordered. Striker groups, you have your targets. Get those kids out of there. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Human ingenuity and determination clashed with the evolutionary's superior technology in a dazzling display of lights and explosions. The Defiant plunged into the heart of the enemy formation, its enhanced shields shrugging off hits that would have vaporized lesser ships. Sarah's hands flew over the controls, executing maneuvers that pushed the laws of physics to their limits. Boarding teams away, Voss reported from her station. They've breached the outer hull. Sarah nodded tensely. Everything hinged on those teams now. They had to reach the captive children and disable the superweapon before it could be used. Hours seemed to pass in minutes as the battle raged. The resistance fleet held its own, but losses were mounting on both sides. Sarah gritted her teeth as another friendly ship winked out of existence on her tactical display. Suddenly, Zix let out a series of urgent clicks. A moment later, the megastructure began to glow with an ominous energy. They're powering up the weapon, Zarlath cried. If it fires, it could alter the evolutionary path of every living thing in this sector. Sarah's mind raced. They were out of time. With grim resolve, she made a decision that would alter the course of the battle, and possibly the fate of the galaxy. All ships, fall back to minimum safe distance, she ordered. Zix, divert all power to engines and forward shields. We're going in. Sarah, no. Voss protested. The Defiant wasn't designed to withstand that kind of. It's the only way. Sarah cut her off. Zix, you with me? The alien child's response was a surge of affirmative clicks and a flood of power through the ship's systems. The Defiant shot forward like a bullet, streaking past friend and foe alike. Warning klaxons blared as the ship's structure groaned under the strain. On the view screen, the maw of the megastructure's primary emitter grew larger by the second. Impact in 5, 4. Voss's voice was tight with fear and awe. Sarah closed her eyes. For Earth. For all of us. The Defiant struck the emitter just as it began to fire. For a moment, it seemed as if the universe itself held its breath. Then, with a silent flash that outshone the stars, the megastructure's core overloaded. The shockwave rippled out, catching friend and foe alike in its wake. When it passed, the battlefield fell eerily silent. Where the evolutionary megastructure had been, there was now only a slowly expanding cloud of debris. And at its heart, a miracle. The Defiant, battered but intact, its hull glowing with the residual energy of Zix's last-second intervention. As systems slowly came back online, Sarah's voice crackled over the fleet-wide comm. This is Captain Chen. Status report. One by one, the responses came in. The boarding teams had succeeded in their mission, freeing hundreds of captive children. The evolutionary leadership had been captured or killed in the explosion. And the superweapon was no more. As the realization of their victory sank in, cheers erupted across the fleet. But Sarah knew this was only the beginning. They had won the battle, but the war for the future of the galaxy was far from over. With Zix by her side and her diverse crew around her, Sarah Chen looked out at the star-filled expanse before them. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Humans and aliens united in a cause greater than themselves. The uprising had succeeded. Now, the real work of building a new, just galactic order could begin. The reckoning. The great hall of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Representatives from 1,000 worlds filled the vast chamber, their murmurs creating a cacophony of alien languages. At the center of it all stood Sarah Chen, her expression a mask of determination. 6 months had passed since the battle at the Horsehead Nebula. 6 months of frantic diplomacy, tense standoffs, and careful coalition building. Now, it all came down to this moment. Zix stood beside her, its form now closer to adolescent than child. The alien's growth had been as remarkable as its abilities, which seemed to expand daily. On Sarah's other side was Harlath, the defector whose courage had made their victory possible. Order. The Grand Arbiter's voice boomed across the chamber. This emergency session of the Galactic Council will now commence. As the noise died down, Sarah took a deep breath. She thought of Earth, of the sacrifices made to reach this point, of Colonel Blackwood, who had given her life in the final push against the evolutionaries, of Dr. Voss, even now working to heal the rescued children. Delegates of the Council. Sarah began, her voice steady. We stand at a crossroads. The corruption of the evolutionaries has been exposed, but the danger is not past. We must decide what kind of galaxy we want to live in. She gestured to the holographic displays that sprang to life around the chamber. They showed images of the rescued children, of shattered worlds, of the terrible weapons the evolutionaries had created. Humanity came to the stars in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. Instead, we found a conspiracy that threatened not just us, but every developing species in the galaxy. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Sarah pressed on. But we also found allies, beings of courage and conscience who were willing to stand against injustice. She nodded to Xarlath and the other council members who had joined their cause. Together, we proved that our differences are our strength, that innovation, compassion, and cooperation can overcome even the most entrenched evil. The chamber was silent now, all eyes fixed on Sarah. I stand before you not to demand reparations or to seek punishment. I come with a proposal, a new charter for the Galactic Council, one that enshrines the rights of all sentient beings, one that promotes the free exchange of ideas and technology, one that creates a joint task force to protect developing worlds. She paused, letting her words sink in, but most importantly, one that recognizes that diversity, of form, of thought, of evolution itself, is the true path to a thriving galaxy. As Sarah spoke, Zix interfaced with the chamber systems. New holograms appeared, showing simulations of a galaxy united, worlds rebuilt, species uplifted, a future bright with possibility. Xarlath stepped forward. Esteemed colleagues, I vouch for the truth of Captain Chen's words. I have seen firsthand the courage and ingenuity of humanity. They ask not to rule, but to contribute, to be partners in our shared future. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some voices were raised in support, others in skepticism or outright opposition. The Grand Arbiter called for order, but the energy in the room was electric. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the din. Perhaps a demonstration is in order. All eyes turned to a figure that seemed to shimmer into existence at the center of the chamber. It was vaguely humanoid, but composed of swirling energy patterns that hurt the eye to look at directly. Sarah tensed, her hand moving to her weapon. Identify yourself. The being's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. I am an observer. My kind has watched the younger races for eons. We do not interfere, usually. The chamber was dead silent now, every being present aware that they were in the presence of something beyond their understanding. The observer continued. Your conflict with the evolutionaries did not go unnoticed. We watched with great interest as species who should have been enemies came together. as a lone human and a child of a race thought insignificant, changed the course of galactic history. It turned to Sarah. You spoke of diversity as strength, of cooperation over dominance. These are concepts many civilizations never grasped, even after millions of years. The being's form shifted, resolving into a mirror image of Sarah herself. Humanity is young, but you have shown wisdom beyond your years. Perhaps you are ready for the next step. With a gesture, the observer caused the chamber's holograms to change. They now showed wonders beyond imagination. Dyson spheres, intergalactic travel, technologies that bordered on magic. A gift, the observer said. Knowledge to help you on your way. Use it wisely. And with that, the being vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. For a long moment, nobody moved or spoke. The implications of what had just happened were almost too big to grasp. It was Zix who broke the silence. The alien child, no, adolescent now, stepped forward. When it spoke, it was with a voice of harmonics and subsonics that everyone present could understand. We stand on the brink, Zix said. Not just humanity, not just the council, but all thinking beings. We can choose fear, isolation, and stagnation. Or we can choose growth, cooperation, and endless possibility. The alien turned to Sarah, its 4 eyes shimmering with an emotion that transcended species. You saved me, Sarah Chen. You and your kind showed me that there is more to strength than evolution or technology. There is spirit. There is heart. Zix faced the assembly. I speak now for all the children who were taken. For all the worlds that have suffered. We do not seek vengeance. We seek a future where no one need fear the night sky, where the stars are not a threat, but a promise. A ripple passed through the chamber. Species that had been bitter enemies for millennia looked at each other with new eyes. Delegates who had come ready for war felt the ice around their hearts begin to melt. The Grand Arbiter's voice was thick with emotion as he called for a vote on Sarah's proposal. The result was unanimous. As cheers erupted and beings from 1,000 worlds celebrated, Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She thought of the long journey that had brought her here, of the friends lost and the allies gained. Tarlath placed a hand on her shoulder. Well done, Captain Chen. Or should I say, Ambassador Chen. Sarah smiled, a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration washing over her. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've still got a galaxy to rebuild. As the celebration continued around them, Sarah, Zix, and Tarlath looked out at the star-filled expanse visible through the council chamber's grand windows. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges they could scarcely imagine. But for the first time in a long while, it was also filled with hope. The galaxy had faced its reckoning, and in the crucible of crisis, it had forged a new destiny, one of unity, of progress, of infinite possibility. Humanity had not just survived its trial by fire. It had helped light the way forward for all sentient beings. And that, Sarah thought, was the greatest victory of all.